It has been beautiful weather lately, but Thanksgiving is now over and it's time to put away the produce stand. There was some last minute pumpkin decorators or Thanksgiving decorators, fall decorators, whatever you want to call it, that did get some pumpkins here last minute, and that's another reason why I left it out so long. But today, it's time to put it away. There's not much we're gonna have. In fact, there's nothing else we're gonna be able to put out there. We still have our winter squash or butternut squash, and then the pumpkins. It's just time to put it away. There's nothing else we're gonna have, so nobody's gonna buy any pumpkins anymore unless they're buying it for maybe animals or something like that. So we're gonna work on getting that cleaned up, getting everything tore down. I know I gotta pump the tires up, and hopefully we can find a spot for it, because right now I think I want to put it over in there. Right there we have a bunch of pumpkins that I didn't even put out on the stand, and then I might be able to shift the sprayer over a little bit. We'll move that little dirt bike and we might be able to shove it back in there for the time being. That might be the best bet. So as you can see, we got a ton of squash left, even a couple watermelons. So anything that didn't sell as far as this stuff goes is going to get, you know, eventually cut open, and we'll use it for feed. And the chickens will love this. It works out perfect. Still have some eggs in here, so everything's gonna get shut down. The barn fridge is gonna get unplugged for the winter once it starts getting really cold, and that's kind of where we're gonna be at. So even the watermelons, we'll feed those to the chickens. You know, same thing. A lot of these pumpkins, the ones that aren't starting to rot, like this one here, will get fed to the goats and the chickens as well. So we're gonna load up some of the really nice ones here, take them over to the house so we can cut them open and collect seeds for next year. Now the biggest problem with these is these didn't have enough time to mature. We planted stuff late. The majority of these on this skid are kind of rotten, so they're gonna kind of suck to move. All these ones, all the orange ones, are actually really nice for the most part. You have maybe one or two here and there, but these are still really solid, so these shouldn't be a problem. It's these. So the majority of these are getting soft, or at least soft on one side. There is some good ones in here, but majority of them are soft. So I have such a big stack down there at the barn that it's just, I can't store these any longer. These need to be either disposed of or used, because they're not gonna last much longer. And I have all them orange ones yet, and I have 2 skids of these kind down there now. So I've come to the conclusion that I think it's just easier if I just kind of dump them all in here with the chickens. They'll rip them apart. And I put a couple in here earlier, and this is kind of what they look like. They made that a giant bowl, and they'll eat everything. They love them. Well, it kind of worked as planned, but kind of not. There's a bunch that rolled down there into those pools. But for the most part, a lot of them just kind of sat here. And you see what I mean? It's just, they're not really the best. So I need to shove the rest of these in here. This one's getting solid, but the majority of them are trash. That was quick and easy. Some of the ones that did spill out, I'm not even gonna mess with. I'm not worried about it. And they're gonna clean it up, you know, eventually. And so a lot of the chickens are outside the fence anyhow, so they'll clean those up. But these are all just gonna lay here. I'm not sure how they'll pick at them, you know, with them not being cut open, but I'm sure they will. We'll see what happens. But I mean, they're already starting to pick up a bunch of the guts that spilled out. And now we can move on to the much nicer looking ones. Now that is a load of pumpkins, and hopefully they don't fall off. So that basically leaves us with a skid and a half, and then all the squash, which we should easily be able to fill that in one load. And then take the stuff out of the fridge. We gotta pump the tires up. If you guys watched before when we built this, we had trouble with this side, I believe, with the tire going flat all the time. So apparently there was still an issue, and then putting weight and stuff on here, it was a problem. So I'll see if I can get that solved and fixed, but if not, we may have to do something different for next year so this doesn't happen, because it really made it lean forward, because you're talking a good 2, 3, actually more than that, 4 or 5 inches that it lifts it up. So we didn't lose a single one, so that's a plus. So I'm gonna stack all the orange ones here, and we'll have at least another skid worth. I could maybe fill in some here, but I want to get these used up, because these ones are same thing, starting to go a little soft, because they were supposed to be this kind of color, or like a tannish color, and we had frost early, and yeah. So I'll store all these here for the time being, and they should be out of the way for the most part. We should have them used up, you know, this winter, obviously. Well, one more up there just kind of looks like a stretch. Nobody move. Well, one skid's full, second one started, and I do have to put somewhere with the squash. I have to go somewhere with that. So, yeah, I don't know where that's gonna go yet. The pumpkins are done, but that just leaves the squash, which I have not really decided where I'm gonna put those. I'm kind of leaning towards potentially right here, but then that kind of leaves us blocked to get the tractor out if we so choose. The other thing I could do is measure for where the produce stand is gonna come in here and see how far it's gonna stick out. And then we could potentially put a skid right up there, but I'm kind of doubting that's going to work either. I should have slid this back further. Well, that went fairly quick, and definitely a lot of room in the wagon yet. So the only thing at this point is, I think I'm gonna let the sign on there, but I do have to get these eggs out of here, and I'll probably pull the waters out. Wouldn't have to, so they could probably stay, but the eggs will come out. And I gotta try and pump these tires up. I'm hoping that I can get air in there long enough that I can, you know, move it where it needs to go. Yeah, see, a couple people got some stuff. That's better. Just by pumping that up, that leveled the stand out a lot. All I have to do is get this out of here. I thought this was the one we were having problems with, but it wasn't. It was the back. So I'm kind of surprised that this one leaked all the air and the one in the back that was giving us problems still had some air in it. So I don't know, we'll see. Well, one thing I wish I would have done differently is had a little bit more clearance underneath it. But since we made this out of a go-kart frame and refurbished everything, you know, we had what we had and whatever was laying around is what we used, and, you know, it was more cost effective that way. So basically at this point, I just need to probably unhook it, because if I try and push it in there the way it is, it's going to tip and it'll probably dump the fridge out this side. And I really don't want that happening. At this point too, I kind of wish I had a way to latch this shut. That would be really nice. Like put a chain here with like something down here and you could just chain it fast. That would be nice. Or to in here, one of the two. And maybe that might be something that we do down the road as well. But for right now, I just want to get it inside. So I'm kind of thinking, because this is such a huge drop and it has such low clearance, because I don't really need access to anything in here over the winter time, I'm almost thinking it would make the most sense to put it in the barn here somewhere. I think this is much more gradual of an area, and we could put it right back in here. That would just make a ton more sense, because we'd be coming up the hill. I just think it's a lot more gradual to come up here. Just backing up here, the back end will actually be up higher, get it right in, and we can swing it and put it right back in here where we don't have anything. I'm gonna try that. What am I thinking? For that matter, we could just drive straight in from this side and go right over there. That was just a test to see if any of you guys were paying attention. I knew we could drive through. Well, let's try this again. This is gonna be much easier, I believe. And a much better place to store it probably it's only gonna be in here for the winter anyhow. And it's not gonna be in the way where it's at. So it should be totally fine. As long as we don't roll it, getting it in here, which I can't imagine we would. Now I will just unhook it and try swinging it around and push it right back. Well, it is in, finally. And if I really wanted to, I can turn it, push it over towards the back. I don't know, we might. That way this end's open and not, I don't want the mice and stuff in here like crazy, so I might prop this back open. And I know I gotta open the fridge so that can defrost. But you can see maybe the angle that wheel is at. I hate it. This side's nice and it can't really go anywhere because it's got the wood here. So I don't know. That'll work. Now I can kind of monitor it and make sure nothing stupid's going on. Yeah, I really hate this. I wish it had an axle underneath it that went the whole way through. It really should have. That would have been 10 times better, but you got to start somewhere. So eventually we might upgrade to something else. I don't know. At this point, I need to go back out, and at least the worst part of this is done. That is a big plus. But I do need to go out and get the squash, which is in the trailer, and then bring around, I think, 2 skids. The one skid I'm going to use for the squash. The other skid I'll bring back and stack on the pile. Otherwise, then we should be done. Pumpkins are done. Squash done. The only thing we got left is some of these potatoes that I'm not even gonna worry about. I'm just gonna chuck them. And then the watermelons, I'll cut those, take them up to the chickens, they can eat those. But 1 skid, decent amount of squash. There's actually 1 zucchini left that's actually still good. I don't know how. But the squash will slowly start incorporating all this into our feeding schedule. And as you can see, we are officially cleaned up outside. The only thing that I do want to do yet is probably grab the mower, if it'll start, and just kind of mow over this square here, get this all cleaned up. And then we're officially done. We're officially closed for the produce stand for this year. It was a very interesting ride, and to say the least, my expectations weren't extremely high, but I think the stand did really well for the amount of time that we had it out. So that's definitely a huge plus, and it's better to go into something like that with, you know, not high hopes, because you don't want to be disappointed. So overall, I think it did really well. But that's gonna do it. We're cleaned up and we beat the snow. That's the biggest thing. We beat the first snowfall, which is kind of what I was hoping to not have to deal with and then have a muddy mess. And because usually we get snow and then it kind of thaws, and then, yeah, it's a joke. So that's gonna do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, drop a like. And as always, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.